What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the top 10 best builds in part of Exile's one new event. So in this guide I will give you a quick overview of each setup, then I will explain what are their strengths and weaknesses, then how do their core mechanics work, then what gear and items should you focus on, then also what are their core passive points and much more. And if you are looking for any of these builds on the website for their path of building, then click my link in the description or the pinned comment. So moving over to the first build, which is the Boneshatter Juggernaut. This melee build is designed as a league starter, optimized for early gameplay and progression. The setup focuses on the Juggernaut's ascendancy, which emphasizes on durability and damage mitigation, that makes it ideal for players looking to tackle high damage while staying tough. The key mechanic of this build revolves around the Boneshatter skill, which scales the character's damage output and offers a powerful AoE attack. The Boneshatter is perfect for players who enjoy tanky characters capable of dishing out substantial damage, while also making it a strong choice for those new to the league starting or returning to POE 1. It also offers a smooth progression into the higher levels, with manageable gear requirement. Our Boneshatter skill will crush the skulls of our enemies, while giving us a small concoction in the process. When you hit an enemy with the Boneshatter, you will obtain a trauma stack, which makes your next attack deal more damage to you both and the monster you hit. Longer stuns will release larger consecutive pulses onto your enemies. This means that ramping trauma stacks with high attack speed, while also mitigating the self-inflicted damage, is key for high DPS. So for high damage, it's important to obtain every modifier on your gear and level your character as much as possible. While for defense, the one weakness of this build is the elemental damage over time, so this will require for you to move out of dots every time, or your self damage needs to exceed your recovery. Then for the second build, we have the Lightning Arrow Deadeye. The setup's main focus is on the ranged elemental damage, which sends out lightning projectiles that deal AoE damage and releases chains between the enemies. The Deadeye Ascendancy will offer increased projectile damage, faster projectiles, and powerful buffs for ranged attacks, making it an ideal choice for maximizing Lightning Arrow's potential. The key features of this build is scaling with critical strike chance, high mobility, and excellent bossing and clearing speed. Players will also need to use specific items that enhance damage and provide utility. This build is highly versatile with multiple ways to scale damage and survivability that is based on your preference and gear options. As far as offense goes, Lightning Arrow and Artillery Ballista are elemental attack skill gems, so the primary stats to scale these efficiently are increased attack speed, projectile damage, and many more. However, for defense, we will need to build upon evasion, capped elemental resistances, and spell or element suppression, so this way we could get solid defense and avoid getting one-shotted. On top of this, more components like the elemental penetration and projectile scaling are also volatile for this build to succeed, and it will offer a smooth transition into the higher tiers of gameplay. And next we have the Minion Army Necromancer build. This setup's main focus is on summoning bunch of minions that deal chaos and poison damage, which offers a balance between offense and defense, and suitable for both new and experienced players. We will utilize a lot of different minions, including skeletons, zombies, and specters, which are all enhanced to inflict significant chaos and poison damage. Then also we will employ skills like summon skeletons and raise zombies, supported by the auras and curses, like summon, scatter bots, and punishment, to amplify minion damage and demolish enemies. And as far as defense goes, our main defense layer will be a high block chance, substantial armor, so anywhere from 20 to 30,000, and automated molten shells to mitigate incoming damage even further. This build's main playstyle is revolved around summoning an army of skeletons, zombies, and specters that continuously attack and spread poison. This gameplay is very simple and not very intensive. You just want to use the shield charge to move around into the enemies, then cast Conviction to bring your entire army on top of them. Also, your shield charge will trigger the Summon Holy Relic's massive life regeneration, so just stay very close to the enemies to gain the damage reduction benefit from the flesh and stone. This is for sure one of the strongest builds in the game, and even with all these defensive tools, it can still dish out some serious chaos and poison damage that you can scale all the way into the endgame. Next we have Poisonous Concoction Pathfinder build. The main idea behind this setup is that the poison stacks applied to the Poisonous Concoction are not hard limited, so it will benefit immensely from increased attack speed, area of effect and increased duration. The more poison stacks you can apply, the faster you can apply them, and the longer that they last, the more damage you do, and a fast movement speed is also highly desirable. And with all of that in mind, the frenzy charges will fit these requirements perfectly, and the build will provide as many charges as possible, and as many bonuses from the frenzy charges as we can, while maintaining a decent level of defense. This is not only one of the strongest starter builds, but also very flexible in the endgame, as it provides fast, responsive and smooth playstyle all at the same time. This build is a very good all-around performer that is strong from League starter all the way through the endgame. It can smash through maps and is particularly effective for Delve and Haste due to the high movement speed and the narrow layouts of those mechanics. It is also a good general bosser. And finally, best of all, it's very simple to play. There are only from 2 to 3 buttons that you need to use. So right click to throw potions. One for Plague Barrier and one that you can trigger Deval Grey, Val Molten Shell and or Deval Haste if you choose to. And the flasks are on auto and take care of themselves. So if you're looking for a quick and agile build that has insane damage, then this is the one for you. Next on the list we have the Ground Slam Slayer build. This setup is centered around the Ground Slam of the Earth Shaking skill, which is an updated version of the classic Ground Slam build, and it delivers powerful AoE damage with a wide frontal wave. This is designed for the Slayer Ascendancy, as it offers a balance of offense and defense, making it suitable for both newcomers and seasoned players. The Ground Slam of the Earth Shaking skill will unleash a broad wave that damages enemies in front, with increased chance to stun. It requires the use of a two-handed weapon, such as an axe, mace or a stave. Notably, this new version will boost a higher damage effectiveness and a wider angle, but come with a higher mana cost and slower attack speed. By choosing the Slayer Ascendancy, it will enhance our build with notable perks like the Life Leech, increased AoE and immunity to bleeding, bolstering both survivability and damage output. Also for defense, we will emphasize on life pulse, substantial armor and effective crowd control, true stuns, ensuring resilience against all endgame content. On top of solid damage, the Slayer has continuous leech effects, which will let you ignore most damage over time, and provide a consistent source of healing. Plus, Slayer is well positioned to access armor and maximum resistance, which creates a well-rounded defensive character. So if you want to slam and smash through the hundreds of enemies, then this is the one for you. Next we have the Poison Necromancer build. This setup summons an army of flaming skulls that apply stacking poison damage, melting enemies over time. The key features are minion-based poison stacking, so raging spirits will aggressively attack, applying deadly poison. However, they will also take the hits while you stay at a distance, so not only you will be able to scale this build into the endgame, because your poison stacking will grow stronger for boss fights, but also this build will work on a low budget and will protect you from most enemies. Our main playstyle will revolve around summoning raging spirits to attack enemies. Then those minions will apply poison stacks for massive damage over time. On top of this, we will also use the Bone Offering for block chance and recovery, and buff our damage with the Hatred, Malevolence and Despair Curse. And all of this will of course require active minion management, which can impact the clear speed. Moreover, there will be 2 ways to scale this build, so with the Trigger Wand or the Arcanist brand. The Trigger Wand setup will provide better early defenses, higher overall quality of life and superior minion survivability, while using Arcanist brand will give you better damage at a low investment, so as long as you're able to obtain the Bones of the Uller. Next we have one of my favorite builds, which is the Toxic Rain Pathfinder. This setup is a very popular league starter, as it's known for having a great balance between offense and defense, making it suitable for both new and experienced players. This build utilizes the Toxic Rain skill in conjunction with the Ballista Totem to deliver consistent AoE damage over time. So Toxic Rain skill will fire arrows that create spore pods upon impact, dealing chaos damage over time and slowing enemies within their AoE range, while the Ballista Totem will deploy totems that automatically fire Toxic Rain arrows, allowing players to focus on movement and positioning while the totems handle offense. On top of this, we're using the Pathfinder Ascendancy because it enhances the flask effectiveness and uptime, providing sustained damage output and increased survivability. One of my favorite things is that this Toxic Rain build is designed to start a fresh league with, meaning that you can start from having no currency and clear most content with almost zero cost whatsoever. And as far as gameplay goes, for mapping we want to throw down a ballista as you move around and occasionally activate your Mirage Archer support, which uses the ensnaring arrow. Then you want to keep your Blood Rage up or use the Frenzy, and make sure that you have your Life Flask recovery active at all times. Well then for bossing, you again put down your ballista, and then once the boss is active, then cast the Despair to reduce their chaos resistance. Then attack with the ensnaring arrow to keep them slowed, and whenever you have time, then sneak in a frenzy or recast your ballista if it disappears. Then for the next one we have the Fire Chieftain build. This Chieftain setup is a quite compelling melee build that focuses on fire damage conversion and explosive AoE mechanics. This build leverages the Chieftain's Ascendancy fire damage enhancements and life regeneration to create a resilient character that is capable of handling both single target and group encounters effectively. The core mechanic first is the Infernal Blow skill. The primary attack will convert the physical damage to the fire damage, applying a debuff that causes enemies to explode upon a death or after reaching maximum stacks. These explosions will deal significant AoE damage, facilitating efficient clear speed in dense monster packs. While second, we have the fire damage conversion. So by utilizing items like the Bringer of the Rain helmet and the Facebreaker gloves, the build will achieve full conversion of the physical damage to the fire, maximizing the effectiveness of the fire-based modifiers and the Chieftain's Ascendancy bonuses. So overall we will get a high damage uptime. The combination of the Infernal Blow mechanics and the fire damage scaling will result in very impressive single target and AoE damage. Then also it's quite budget friendly. This build can function effectively with accessible unique items, making it suitable for players with limited in-game currency. And finally we also get good tankiness. This setup will offer a robust defensive layer, including life regeneration and block chance, providing a forgiving gameplay experience for new players. Then for one of the last ones we have the Crit Smite Duelist, also more known as the Paladin build. This setup is a dynamic melee build that combines high critical strike chance with the Smite skill to deliver powerful elemental attacks. This build will capitalize on the Duelist versatility, blending strength and dexterity to achieve both significant damage output and robust defenses. Our core mechanic is Smite and critical strikes. So Smite is a melee attack that deals lightning damage and grants us aura, enchanting the attack and movement speed of the player and nearby allies, while also we will build for critical strikes, so then Smite can consistently deliver high burst damage, especially when augmented with the elemental damage modifier. While then focusing on critical strike chance and multiplier amplifiers, the damage output of the Smite gets boosted even further. So by utilizing weapons with a high base critical strike chance, such as the daggers or claws, in combination with the passive skill tree and gear that boosts critical stats, all of this will ensure frequent and devastating critical hits and very high DPS. The main playstyle will revolve around engaging enemies with a Smite, then positioning for maximum aura's benefit for ourselves and allies. Then also we will deploy totems like the Ancestral Protector to boost attack speed and damage during challenging fights. And then lastly, we will need to maintain mobility with the Leap Slam to dodge mechanics and reposition as needed. And now for the last and final one, we have the Lightning Strike Deadeye build. This setup is a very early league starter, and it is an all-around build that is capable of going from the campaign all the way to the beating the pinnacle endgame boss. This build will excel with fast clearing speed and killing tough enemies, thanks to the Deadeye's Ascendancy, which provides great damage and speed, making this one of the fastest and most well-rounded mapping builds in the game. The two main core parts of our build is the Lightning Strike and the Deadeye Ascendancy. The Lightning Strike will provide our primary attack, which converts physical damage to the lightning damage, releasing projectiles that pierce enemies, making it effective for both single target and AoE damage, while our Ascendancy will enhance these projectiles even further by offering increased damage, speed and additional projectiles which will synergize amazing. Our gameplay will be about high mobility, so we will incorporate movement skills like the dash and the blank arrow to swiftly navigate through the maps and avoid damage. Then also we will focus on increasing critical strike chance and add multipliers to maximize damage output. And finally, we'll emphasize evasion rating and dodge chance to mitigate incoming damage, which will enhance our survivability. So if you're looking for a fun, swift and agile build, then here it is. And with that, please let me know what you think about his builds in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, then you definitely don't want to miss my previous top 3 best builds video, where I showed even more powerful builds. So click the screen now and I'll see you in the next one.